Hello, good morning all. Hope your gears are turning today. I actually am working on a different video series right now and a different set of articles, but since the document dropped yesterday of all the Epstein files, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go live. It's not going to have all the bells and whistles, but we're going to go over some of these documents because this is kind of the thing everybody's been waiting for months and months and months. And it's not the criminal indictments. It's not those would be like the good documents, right? All of Epstein's criminal filing stuff. But it is a civil case that actually is towards Miss Maxwell from one of their alleged victims, right? So the interesting thing about these documents is it details a lot of allegations, the basis for the victim's lawsuit, and Maxwell was required to submit her own response and dispute what facts the victim was alleging that she disputes and admit which one she says, yes, this did happen. So, I'm like 100 pages into this 2024 page long document. And so far it's interesting. Just in the first 100 pages, there's allegations from the victim involving Epstein and Prince Andrew and various other people. Now, in that first 100 pages, Maxwell's attorney does lay out a time frame of this particular victim's, so just this victim's, employment history, residential addresses, so on and so forth. So far, reading that part, it does lay out a pretty good foundation for claiming that a certain section of what this victim alleges could not have happened. Employment that she had, addresses that she held with other people. She wasn't living by herself. And Miss Maxwell's attorney essentially says, here's her work history, here's the apartment she lived in and who she was living with. And so from these years to these years, it looks like the period of time, like 2001 to 2003, it would have been very hard for her to be, held captive by Epstein, which is what this particular victim alleged. Because part of what the victim alleged was that she was held against her will. She actually states that at the end of this period of time with Epstein, she had to flee the country and hide out to get away from him, et cetera, et cetera. So establishing, hey, she had these other jobs that had nothing to do with us. Here's a time frame of our travel where she was there working and living in these apartments with one fiance and then a long-term boyfriend. So she could have, if all of this were true, she could have gotten away from us at any time. So right off the bat in the first 100 pages, they're poking holes in this victim's story as a whole, right? So I look at now, mind you, this is one victim from the Epstein cases, from any of this interaction, they have not dived in yet to, it's very hard to investigate what went on his private island, et cetera, et cetera. So that does not mean to say that Epstein or Maxwell are just innocent and so on and so forth. It means that this victim in particular, though it is documented in here, Maxwell admits her and Epstein had contact with this young woman, admits that contact occurred when she was underage. That is laid out in the time frame in here. So they met through Miss Guffrey. That's what I'm going to say. I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but that is her name, and her name is listed in these documents, so that's public now. They met. She was a minor, dropped out of high school, et cetera, et cetera. Her father worked in maintenance at the Mar-a-Lago Club down in Florida. And her father kind of pulled some strings, talked to the head of the spa there to get her a job at Mar-a-Lago in the spa section, specifically in the masseuse section, right? Even though this young woman was not of age, was not a licensed masseuse, they kind of like finagled, it seems, to get her a job there. And that is how she ended up meeting Epstein. Now, this was early 1999, 2000, right? So that's how she initially makes contact with Epstein. And then Epstein hires her, is what's listed in the documents. Now, this is what Miss Maxwell admits to. Epstein hires her to be his private masseuse, this underage girl. And she ends up traveling the world with him, et cetera, to massage him while they're flying all over the world. And that detail alone it definitely adds some validity to the specific allegations of the when, the where, and the who of these other people involved, like Prince Andrew or other, it adds some validity to that aspect of this victim's allegations. The only thing that's disputed in what they lay out in the time frame of her jobs and her residences, and the only thing that they have proven in these first 100 pages is that the part of her allegation where she has alleged that for 4 years she was a captive of Epstein, that she did not have her freedom, that she could not come and go as she pleased, that she belonged to Epstein, and because she also alleges that she had to escape, that she had to flee the country and, to get away. Alleges that she had to hide out from these people for years before she came forward and tried to join the Victims Act, to join the cases against Epstein that were disputing the plea deal that he was originally given, and saying, hey, we're his victims, and this plea deal does not give us justice. So it was many, many years before she tried to join that action. So her explanation for that gap in time is that she was overseas, hiding out, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very interesting to go through these. there's going to be an article up on my site with a link to the full 2,024 pages, the entire set of documents. So anyone that wants to go read it for themselves. Now, there's been a news story circulating for some time that the end of Trump and Epstein having any even casual association was Trump barring him from Mar-a-Lago over impropriety with an employee. So reading these document dumps, I am very curious now to look into it and see if this young woman would have been that employee, because from what Maxwell has filed in her side, so her response, so these are things that she is documenting and alleging. That is how they met this young woman. Her father had gotten her a job and kind of misrepresented her as a masseuse, and they met her there and then pulled her away from. It does not look like she continued the job at Mar-a-Lago when she became Epstein's private masseuse and travel the country with him. That employment at Mar-a-Lago ended. So considering that what's been floating around for years now is that the beginning of the end of Trump having any association with Epstein was some impropriety towards an employee at his club. And I would be curious to find out if this victim was that employee, because I don't know if there's any other documented crossover between any of Epstein's victims and the Mar-a-Lago club. And since it's documented here that she was an employee, that would make sense. So I'm just going through the first 100 pages at this point. A lot of it is the first 100 pages are the arguments back and forth to unseal these documents, and then you're just getting into Maxwell's response filing, so her side of it. So I have not gotten through to the victim's filing and what she alleged and what proof she provides and so on and so forth. So we'll see how it develops. I think even though I'm working on other articles and series right now, and I just want to throw this out, something real quick and go, hey, this is happening. Because it's a pretty big deal. People have been waiting for this to be unsealed for a while. And I think a lot of people, given the situation surrounding Epstein's death and that Maxwell is in custody now, and that this does involve so many other powerful people, this is a starting point to seeing if there's any actual evidence that was submitted in this case or to connect other people. I do know Alan Dershowitz is named repeatedly in this first 100 pages as being one of the people, one, that wanted these documents unsealed, and two, that has really strongly opposed this young woman's, that she alleges that he is one of the people that victimized her while she was a captive of Epstein. And Dershowitz has already gone to like great lengths to prove that that's impossible. I mean, he provided alibis and he fought this several years ago. So I'm interested to see, when this reignites that situation, and we'll see how many people that are named in this end up, what proof they can provide. And, I know it's easy to become the mob and just want, especially on any kind of subject matter surrounding stuff this awful. But I want to see what the proof is, what the evidence is, what's provided in here, what Maxwell had provided as evidence, what the victim provided as evidence. I really want to see what this back and forth looked like. And again, this is a civil suit. This is not any of the criminal cases that have been, none of those, to my knowledge, are unsealed right now. We can't dig into Epstein's criminal cases or indictments or what evidence was there already. We can't dig into Maxwell's criminal indictment right now and what she's currently in custody for. But this civil action does give kind of a window into what we might expect when her criminal case goes forward, because it's alleging a lot of the stuff that I'm sure she will ultimately end up being charged for. And it should be noted that several of the other victims that were on the victim action from Epstein's original plea deal conviction have refuted allegations that this victim who sued Maxwell, that she alleges. So other victims have said, I have no idea what she's talking about, or I never encountered that, or I never, and that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Maybe they weren't there, or maybe, but you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. I think it's going to be really interesting to continue going through these. So I'm just going to do these morning videos as I get further and further through it. I will start putting up, the parts that I find particularly interesting and just update you guys on what's what. Hope everybody's having an awesome day. Keep your gears turning. Keep questioning. See you guys later. Bye.